Hey, second grade art friends, it's Mrs. Herbay. Today we are I'm going to show you how to make prints of from your drawing that you put into the styrofoam, okay? And so what you're going to need is you're going to need your printing plate. And for the first step, we're just going to need markers. Now, the type of markers that you want to use it will say washable or it'll say water soluble. Washable means if you put water on it, it's going to dissolve away. So I have two different kinds of markers here, but they both have the word washable on them. So if you want to go ahead, grab some markers, and then I'll show you the first step. All right, guys. So whenever you make a print of something, what's going to happen is if we were at school, we would be using a brayer to an ink and we would roll the ink over top of this printing plate. And what would happen is the ink would stay on the surface of the styrofoam, but it would not go down into these little ditches that have been carved into the styrofoam with our ballpoint pen, okay? But since we're not at school and I can't send home the ink and brayers to you, what we're going to use is we're going to use the markers, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to decide, and the cool thing about this is you can use all different colors. You can use one color. You can and the other nice thing about this is you can kind of experiment. So what you're going to do is you're going to color your fish with the markers, okay? So I'm going to take a look here, and I think I'm going to start with maybe like a blue for the face. So what you're going to do is you're just going to color over the top of the styrofoam. So you don't want to color in the lines, but you just want to color the top. So you can kind of see here, I'm going to color this area blue. And maybe I want the eye. I'm going to make the eye a little bit orange here. Okay. And then I'm going to start coloring the fins. Maybe a darker blue. It's okay if you go a little bit outside of the lines because eventually we're going to be cutting these out. So there's those fins. I'm going to color this fin. And then when I color the scales, again, I could, if I wanted to, I could color them more solidly, or if I wanted to get a little bit fancy, I could color some scales one color, and then I could color other scales another color. So to kind of show you that, I'm going to, there's a little fuzz there, so I can I'm just kind of and then maybe I'm going to, let's try this orange. Okay, and then if I want to, I can also add even additional colors, and maybe I want to just go ahead and fill in most of the rest of the fish with this color, but maybe I just want a little bit of green. Nice thing is too, you can overlap colors. So I can color green on top of the blue if I want to. And you're going to see from this, the nice thing is that you can do this multiple different ways, and you can experiment around. And it's nice because you have this printing plate, so you're not, you're going to be able to make, you're going to see after we do this once, we're going to be able to go back and do it again and try different colors or different things. So I'm going to keep filling this in, and then once I get this filled in, I'll show you how we're going to print it. Hi guys, so I finished coloring my fish and now I'm going to get ready to print it. So when you're ready to print your fish, what you want to do is maybe get, I don't know if you have like a plate or a little tray or something, a little plastic tray. And what you want to do is that yellow sponge that I gave you, you want to get it wet, and then what you want to do is you want to squeeze most of the moisture out of it, but you still want it to be a little bit damp, okay? And you can see I squeezed out. You don't want it to be too sopping wet, but you don't want it to be too dry either. And then what's going to happen is you're going to take your drawing paper that I gave you, and for example, I need to kind of moisten this area right here. So I'm just going to take my pencil and trace around the edge of the printing plate. So what that tells me is this is the area where I need to moisten with my sponge. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my sponge and I'm going to wipe. I'm just swiping like 1, 2, 3. Okay. If the paper is too dry, the ink is not going to activate and come off onto the paper. But if the paper is not wet enough, then your print is going to be light. And that may take you a little bit to figure out. Once you dampen the paper, you're going to take your print and turn it upside down onto your paper. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to gently rub with your finger. And you want to rub all of the areas of the on top of the styrofoam. You can also, if it's a little bit easier, you can take it, flip it over onto the other side, and you're just taking your finger, and everywhere where you can see the fish, you're just going to rub. And you can take a little peek and see, oh, yeah. I think it's pretty much all done. So voila, let's check it out. So you can see now I have printed my fish and I did a pretty good job. You can see all the lines, you can see the scales. It's maybe just a little bit light right here, but it's a pretty good print, okay? Now your print may be a little too light. If the paper's too wet, what'll happen is the marker will really bleed everywhere. But what you can do is you can do it again. The nice thing about this is you can do it again. So you're going to take your printing plate, you're going to go wash it off, just run some lukewarm water over the top of it. The ink will probably, it'll still look stained when it's done, and then you'll just want to dry it off with a paper towel. So I'm going to go rinse mine off. Just let the water gently run over top of it, kind of rub it a little bit with your fingers gently, and then dry it off, and then come on back. All right, guys, so I dried off, I just rinsed and dried off, and you can see my printing plate still looks like there's some ink on it, but that's okay. It's just stained, but if you color this, we can color this with new colors, and it will look, it will work out totally fine. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do one more, just to kind of show you guys. So this time maybe I want to work with purple. So you want to, after you dry off your printing plate, just want to be really gentle with it because it is styrofoam and it can bend and break. and you don't want to put any bends or breaks in it, because then you won't be able to print with it anymore. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to again add colors, different colors, just to kind of show you. This time maybe I'm going to do it a little bit simpler so you can kind of see that look. And then we're going to print this one more time, okay? Alright guys, so I finished coloring another fish. This time I mostly used solid colors, and I just added a few highlights with the blue over top. And I used a light purple, so we're going to see how that works out. So again, I'm just going to, before I take my sponge, I'm going to see, oh, I can fit another fish right here next to this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my pencil, go like that, okay? It's also, if you want to, but you don't have to, you can also take your scissors, let me grab, and if you want to, you can cut the paper out as well. So you can cut this away from the so there, and it's already, the nice thing is it dries really fast, so you can already kind of feel that this is dry. So here I'm going to take my sponge. I may need to re-wet it and squeeze it out, but if I squeeze it out, this will kind of tell you how wet it should be. There's not like a whole ton of water in it, but there is some water in it, and I'm just going to soak that back up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my sponge and I'm just wiping it, making sure I get the paper nice and damp. Then what I'm going to do is, another thing you can do is you can do it the other way. So I'm going to take the paper, place it on top of the printing plate. I'm going to smooth it down. And then you can even take, you can make sort of like a fist, and you're going to use the meaty part of your fist, and I'm just going to rub carefully back and forth, and then I'm going to turn this around and rub this way. You want to make sure that you don't move the paper, because if you move the paper, then your print is going to look a little bit wonky. So some things that affect your print are if the paper is too wet or too dry. And the other thing that affects it is if you don't rub enough or in the right places, your the marker won't transfer to the paper. But I'm holding this side of the paper and I'm kind of lifting this up, and I can see, oh, yeah, it's pretty good. So I'm going to take it off the whole way. So here's my second print, and you can see that it looks completely different than this one, which is kind of cool. Okay, so the nice thing is I think I gave you several sheets of the big white drawing paper, so you can continue, make a few prints, take a break, and maybe make some later on. So then you'll just rinse this off again, dry it off again, and then you can recolor it. So you can go, you can make an endless amount of prints. Okay, what I'd like you to try to do is maybe make 2 or 3 good ones, because next week what's going to happen is we're going to make a we're going to watercolor a watery ocean or water habitat for your fish. And so it's nice if you have at least 2 or 3 fish, depending on how big your fish is, to fill up the space. Okay, if you're having a little bit of trouble with this, shoot me an email. We can have a chat, or we can talk about it on Thursday when we meet. But I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.